welcome to Grace Sunday Nights. My name is Josh Gallagher, and it is a privilege to have you here. Now, before we even begin, I want to take just a couple minutes, and I want to brag on some of you. Because here at Grace Sunday Nights, you get it. We made it very clear. Our goal here at Grace Sunday Nights is to help you connect with God and others here, but also throughout the week. And we do this in very unique ways. One way that we do this is what we call our consistent connection. And when you sign up for the consistent connection, you will get regular text messages throughout the week that are in alignment with what we talk here about on Sunday nights. And last week, this is what we talked about. I'm going to give you a quick overview. We talked about generosity because that's the series that we're in. The first thing that we identified is that generosity is not a I win, you lose situation. That's selfishness. That's easy. But it's also not a you win and I lose situation. That's careless. But what we looked at last week was how you win and I win. That's true generosity. And over half of you that were here last week signed up for the consistent connection. And all week long, you were able to grow in this concept of we win generosity. So I just want to say thank you for being a part of this night, but also what God is doing throughout the week with the things that we talk about. Tonight's message hurts. It's not easy, and I wish it was, but it's not. But if you'll let it, it can change your whole world. Here's the question that I want to start with. Where do you see divisions and broken relationships in the world? Now, I'm talking about the world as a whole, but also your individual world. Take a minute and think about that. Where do you see divisions and broken relationships? Doesn't take long to start identifying a couple of them. Divisions and broken relationships, they're like a sickness. The symptoms, they're easy to catch. You can see them, you can spot them. And even the cure, it's easy to hear. But applying it to your life, that's a different story. That's difficult. But if you'll let the cure that we're going to talk about tonight invade your life, it can change your whole world. You can be a world changer. And the reason you can be a world changer is because many people know this cure already. They just don't apply it. But tonight, I want to help you apply the cure to divisions and broken relationships. You ready? Generous love. Generous love will change the world you live in and the world as a whole. Now, when I'm talking about love, some of you are thinking back to 5th grade. When you had that sweet crush on that older upperclassman maybe, that guy or that girl, and you got all the butterflies inside, and you're like, oh, I love them. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a love that is willing to give of time, talent, and treasure to people you don't even like. That's what I mean by generous love. And so we're going to talk about generous love tonight. And where we're going to find generous love is in a story you've maybe heard before. But now that we understand that this story and this cure can change divisions and broken relationships in your life, maybe it's time to tune in for a new perspective on this story. One day, Jesus, he was talking with an expert in the law. And he wasn't an expert like in the judicial law or the law of the land. He was an expert in the first 5 books of the Old Testament, the Torah. In our Old Testament, or the Jewish Bible, the first 5 books of their Bible. And within the Torah, there were a lot of laws that people were supposed to follow. And so he came up to Jesus. Remember, he's an expert in the law, and he had a question. He said, okay, Jesus, what do I need to do to inherit eternal life? Great question. If Jesus was standing in front of me, I would probably ask that same question. Well, Jesus knew he was an expert in the law, so listen to the question he says. He says, okay, well, what does the law say? And the man was like, oh, I got this one. I'm an expert. And he says, well, love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. He's quoting Deuteronomy 6 here. And then he says, and love your neighbor as yourself, quoting Leviticus 19. And Jesus says, you're right. But Jesus wasn't going to settle for the right answer. He says, do this, and you'll live. Not just have the right answer, but actually do this and you're going to live. To which the man responded, okay, who's my neighbor? And the reason the man asked was he wanted to justify his actions because he already knew who he was loving, and he probably didn't want to break out of the cycle or the pattern of the people that he was loving. More than likely, he was loving the people that he liked, and that was it. And he wanted to keep doing that. So Jesus is now going to give this man a powerful story of who he should love and also how he should love. And the story we're going to look at comes from Luke 10:30 through 37. If you have the dark blue Bibles in front of you, go ahead and pull that out. It's on page 1612, or the light blue Bibles, it's on page 1581. And we're going to look at this profound story that Jesus tells this expert in the law. And within this story, we're going to find the components of what it means to have generous love. Because generous love can heal broken relationships and bring unity where there's division. Here's what he says in verse 30. Jesus replied with this story. A man was traveling from Jerusalem down to Jericho, and he was attacked by bandits. It was about 17 miles between Jerusalem and Jericho, so there was plenty of opportunities for bandits to lie in wait and attack and rob people. So what he's talking about here was probably nothing new. They knew this happened. They stripped the man of his clothes and beat him up and left him half dead beside the road. Now this is important. This man has nothing to offer anyone. He's stripped, he's beaten, he's barely conscious. He has nothing to offer anybody. Then he says in verse 31, by chance, a priest came along. Now a priest, they were the upper class of the religious leaders at the time. They were Jewish, and this priest was probably finishing his duties at the temple and going home or going somewhere else. But when he saw the man lying there, he crossed to the other side of the road and passed him by. A temple assistant, somebody who would help the priest in the temple, walked over, and he actually looked at the man lying there. But he also passed by on the other side. We're not exactly sure why these men passed by, but there was a couple laws in the Old Testament in the law that said, if you're a priest and you touch someone who is unclean or dead, you would also be unclean. That means you couldn't perform your duties that you were supposed to. So in this moment, these men see the situation, they understand it, and more than likely they're like, no, I don't want to become unclean. I don't want to get literally dirty and what they thought spiritually dirty. So they passed by on the other side. Well, verse 35, something happens. Then a despised Samaritan came along. Now, the reason why it says despised is because the Samaritans, they were not a good people group at this time. What happened was the nation of Israel went into captivity in Assyria. When that happened, they took the upper echelon of the society and took them into captivity. Some of the lower class of the Israelites stayed in the Holy Land. But the king of Assyria said, whoa, we've got this vacant land. Let's send some of our people back and live in this land. So that's what he did. Well, when they went back, they intermingled with the Israelites that were there. And in the Old Testament, people were frowned upon if they didn't stay pure Jews. So during that time when the Assyrians came back to live in the land, the Israelites that were there and the Assyrians, they got together, and when they had a baby, it was a Samaritan. It was a half-breed. It was looked down upon. That's why they're despised. Nobody liked them. Because they weren't truly of another race and they weren't truly Israelites. Just a half-breed. Well, this half-breed came along. And when he saw the man, he felt compassion for him. The half-breed felt compassion for him. Here's the first thing you need to understand about generous love. And this is the hardest part of this whole thing, but you've got to understand it. Generosity. Who is just as important as what? When we think about generosity, we often go to that mindset of, okay, what do I need to do? What do I need to sacrifice? Jesus says you got to step back first. It's about who. And according to this story, the who is people that don't look like you, act like you, vote like you, or see the world like you. That's who you need to be generous to. We'll get to the what, but the first thing we have to understand is who. Jesus is saying, you need to love the people you don't even like right now. That's the who. But Jesus doesn't stop there. He's going to now tell the man what generous love really looks like. And here's what it says in verse 34. It says, the Samaritan going over to him. Small phrase, huge impact. When he goes over to him, he is now sacrificing his time. I'm sure this Samaritan was on his way to do something in Jericho, and he had a schedule and he had a plan. But when he saw the need, he stopped, and he invested his time in this person. What you're going to see now is a short clip from the book, The Giving Tree. And look how that tree is willing to give of its time to the boy. Check this out.
Then one day the boy returned, and the tree was overjoyed. "Come, boy, come," she said. "Climb up my trunk and swing on my branches and play in my shade and be happy." "But I am too old to play," said the boy. "I want to buy things and have fun. I need money." "I'm sorry," said the tree. "I have only leaves and apples. But here, sell my apples in the city, then you'll have money and you'll be happy." So the boy climbed the tree and gathered her apples and carried them away. And the tree was happy.
Normally you get one crop of apples every year. That takes a lot of time. And the tree was willing to give those apples to the boy. Here's the second thing that you need to understand about generous love. You have enough time to show generous love. You have enough time to do this. Have you ever had a scheduling conflict where you realize you've booked 2 appointments at the exact same time? And the reason it's a conflict is because only one of them can win out. You have to cancel one and say, I can't do that, but I'm going to do this. It's a scheduling conflict. Well, last Sunday night, I had a scheduling conflict. As I was getting ready to leave, my wife called me. She says, we have a sick kid at home. Go to the store and pick up this, whatever it was. I said, okay, I'll go get it. So I rush out of here as quick as I can. I go to the store, and when I get there, they don't have it. So as I'm getting in my car, I'm thinking, okay, what other store has it? Something came into my mind. I was like, I think this store would have it, but I looked at my clock. I think they close in about 5 minutes. It's a good thing we live in Roswell because everything's about 5 minutes away. I love it. So I was like, I can still get there. But as I'm getting ready to leave, I feel this nudge that I need to help someone else that I see in this parking lot. I've never met this person before. I had no idea who they were. But I felt this nudge to say, okay, I should go help them. Right then, what I have? A scheduling conflict. Generous love was saying, sacrifice your time for this person, but my agenda said, no, I've got to go get this. So what did I do? I left that person alone. I left and I went to the store. I'm not perfect, people. Don't think I am. Here's the irony of the whole situation, though. The store I went to, I found out later, was open 24 hours. They didn't have the medicine. I finally found a different way to get the medicine, and by the time I got home, the kid that was sick was asleep. I missed it because I didn't think I had time to show generous love. You will always have time to show generous love. You won't have time to maybe fulfill all of your scheduled prior commitments and love at the same time. When that happens, you're going to have a scheduling conflict. And you get the choice to figure out which one is going to win out. The first thing the Samaritan invested is time. Next, we're going to look at the next thing he invested. Look at this. It says, going over to him, the Samaritan soothed his wounds with olive oil and wine, and then he bandaged them. The Samaritan had a talent. He invested his talent, and the talent was he could soothe and bandage wounds. This was something he was good at. And when the situation called for his talent, he stepped up and stepped in and said, I have this talent, I can meet this need. Generous love. Now check out this clip from the giving tree and see how the tree is willing to give of its talent to the little boy.
Then one day the boy came back, and the tree shook with joy. Come, boy, come, she said. Climb up my trunk and play in my shade and be happy. But I'm too busy to climb trees, said the boy. I want to get married and have kids, and I need a house to keep us warm. I have no house, said the tree, but cut off my branches and build a house. Then you'll be warm and you'll be happy. So the boy cut off her branches and carried them off, and the tree was happy.
Trees have a unique talent to provide shade with their branches. And with that talent, the tree was willing to sacrifice for the sake of the boy. Here's the other thing that you need to understand about your talent. You have enough talent to show generous love. You don't need to wait till you get more experience, further education. If the situation presents itself, you have enough talent right now to show generous love. The problem that we have with talents is simply this. We often think these talents are for us. Could you imagine if the Samaritan was like, I know I can bandage and soothe wounds, and he sees it and be like, well, this isn't for you, this is for me. If I get hurt, that's why I have this. Some of you have amazing talent sitting in here, but you believe the lie that it's for you, that it's for your convenience, it's for your comfort, and it's just about you. God gave you talents so you could express his generous love to other people. He is going to bring people into your path that need what you have. And if you're willing to take your talent and meet that need, you will show generous love. And if you even want to go deeper, God has already given you the talent to start healing those broken relationships and those divisions that you see. And the way that you do that will be unique based on your talent. Some of you might sacrifice your time. Some of you might sacrifice your encouragement. Some of you might sacrifice financially. But you can make a difference right now with the talent you have to mend those broken relationships and bring those divisions together. There's one last thing that the Samaritan invests in this man. And it's in this passage we see all three come together. It says this. Then he put the man on his own donkey and took him to an inn where he took care of him. The next day he handed the innkeeper 2 silver coins, telling him, take care of this man. If his bill runs higher than this, I'll pay you the next time I'm here. What did he invest now? His treasure. Things that he owned and he valued. Look at this. His donkey. He owned the donkey and he was willing to sacrifice what he had, his treasure there. Then he goes to the inn and he continues to use his talent to take care of him. Then the next day he gives him 2 silver coins. These 2 silver coins would cover room and board for up to a month probably for this man during this time. So he gave of his treasure. Then he goes on and says, you know what? I'm going to give you more money when I get back. And what does he finally say? I'm going to invest my time because I'm coming back. I'm not done with this yet. He invests his time, his talent, and his treasure into someone didn't look like him, act like him, but he was willing to show generous love. Check out this clip from the giving tree and see how the tree was willing to be generous to the boy with his treasure.
The boy was away for a long time, but when he came back, the tree was so happy she could hardly speak. Come, boy, she whispered, come and play. I am too old and sad to play, said the boy. I need a boat that will take me far away from here. Can you give me a boat? I have no boat, said the tree, but cut down my trunk and make a boat. Then you can sail away and be happy. And so the boy cut down her trunk, made his boat, and sailed away. And the tree was happy.
The trunk of a tree is considered the heart of the tree. Here's the last thing that you need to understand about generous love. You have enough treasure to show generous love right now. You have enough things at your disposal to extend generous love to those broken relationships and those divisions that you see. You can do that. The church often gets a bad rap for asking for money. Guys, I want to be honest. I've seen those churches. I've even been a part of some of them. They do a horrible job because they make people think, hey, if you don't invest your money with us, God's not really going to love you. Obviously, that's not true. But one reason why churches do get a bad rap for asking for money is this. Matthew 6:24, Jesus says, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So when anybody asks for your heart, do you think you're going to get a little offended? A little uptight? When this happens, usually, sometimes it's the church's fault, but usually it's not. Really, it's a priority on our side. Because the church consistently asks people and encourages people to take steps of faith in different areas. But usually when it comes to money, people get all uptight and be like, oh, they're asking for money again. If this is maybe you, I would say check your heart. Because where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So it's like somebody gets up on a platform and in the name of God puts their hand inside your chest, grabs part of your heart and tries to take it out. Yeah, I'd maybe be offended by that too. But if your heart is tied to money, it's easy to get offended. But if it's not, okay, what can I be generous with? Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So if you want to show generous love, invest your time, talent, and treasure. Jesus finishes this story. And then he asks the expert in the law, he says, okay, which one of the three was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers? I love it. The expert's answer is amazing because he can't even say Samaritan. He says, well, the one who showed him mercy. Can't even say it. And then Jesus, again, is not going to let this guy get away with just the right answer. He says, go and do likewise. He says, you need to do this if you really want to love your neighbor. There once was a seminary, and the very first class that these seminary students had was Introduction to the Bible. This was master level education. And so all these students came in the first day, they had everything ready, they had their computers and their laptops, and to their shock, the professor walks in and he has a rug and a felt board. Now, if you're not sure what a felt board is, it's how they used to tell Bible stories in kindergarten. So he rolls out the rug in the middle of the classroom and he tells all the students, okay, everyone needs to come down, you need to sit on the rug. And they're all like, you serious? He says, let's go, we're starting class, sit on the rug. So they sit on the rug, and he pulls out the felt board, and he puts up the felt board in front of them. And he pulls out the little felt people, and he tells them the story of the Good Samaritan. And he walks them across the felt board, and he puts the hurt man on the donkey, and they go to the inn. And it's amazing. Then at the end of the lesson, he says, okay, I have coloring sheets for you guys. I want you to color them. And during this whole class, there's no new insight, no profound explanation for what's going on. And then with about 5 minutes left, somebody finally kind of raises their hand very meekly and says, when are we going to get deeper teaching? To which the professor responded, I'm glad you asked. The deepest teaching affects your hands, not just your head. He said, your grade for this next week will be based on if you go out and actually love someone who doesn't even look like you. That's deep teaching. And here at Grace Sunday Nights, we want you to experience this level of deep teaching. And one way that you can do that is to sign up for the Consistent Connection. This next week, if you sign up, you're going to get passages to read, questions to think about, and ways to apply what we've talked about with this whole concept of generous love. And through this service, you're going to be able to actually understand the deep teaching of what it means to show generous love to broken relationships and to divisions that you see in your world. All you need to do is text into the number 81010, and then you have 3 different options of what you can sign up for. In the message line, you can put @generous2, @generous4, or @generous6. If you choose generous2, you're going to get a text message for Tuesday and Thursday. If you do 4, you're going to get it Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. If you do 6, you're going to get Monday through Saturday. Because we don't want you to just connect with God here. We want you to connect with him out there. Because the whole point of that story was Jesus saying, go and do. And we want to encourage you to go and do generous love. As we finish up, go ahead and take a look at this last clip from the book, The Giving Tree. And I think it's this final clip that shows a great example of someone that was willing to give everything for the sake of someone else.
And after a long time, the boy came back again. "I'm sorry, boy," said the tree, "but I have nothing left to give you. My apples, my branches, and my trunk are all gone." "My teeth are too weak for apples," said the boy. "I'm too old to swing on branches, and I'm too tired to climb. I don't need very much now, just a quiet place to sit and rest." "Well," said the tree, "you know an old stump is good for sitting and resting. Come, boy, come sit down and rest." So the boy sat down on her stump to rest. And the tree was happy.
Generous love. Does a tree and a boy have anything in common? No. But the tree was willing to give of its time, its talent, and its treasure to someone who didn't look like him, act like him, think like him, or see the world like he did. But he was willing to do that. That's generous love. Do you want to change the world? Show generous love. You want to heal broken relationships? Show generous love. You want to heal the divisions that you see in your workplace, in your homes, in your schools? Show generous love. And you will do just that. As we finish up, I have one final thing to help you live out this concept of generous love. As you leave, if you stop by the guest information table there, we have money for you. Literally, real money for you. We're calling it seed money. It's seed money that we want to get you started on showing generosity to someone that you maybe don't even like. And so when you receive that money, it is to be used to show generosity to maybe a broken relationship in your world, or maybe a division that you see somewhere. And I would encourage you to maybe combine some of your own money with this money to grow it into something wonderful. But if you're like, I don't even know where to start, one thing that we can do is provide you with some treasure to get you started. So stop by the guest information table. They will have that money there for you. And then see how God is going to use you this next week to show generous love to other people. Generosity. It's about who and about what. When you understand that, you can show generous love and change your world. Let's pray. God, we want to be world changers. We don't want to contribute to the problem. We want to be part of the solution. Broken relationships and divisions are easy. Anybody can see them and anybody can create them. But it takes a group of people who love you and are willing to make a difference, to heal those relationships and bring unity where there's divisions. So God, give us opportunities this next week to show this level of generosity. Create opportunities for us to love the people that we don't even like right